So yesterday I returned from the Ontario Vipassana Center Goenka meditation retreat, and I left early. I left on day 4, at the end of day 4, and I wanted to share why. I wanted to share this because it would have really helped me to know what some of the drawbacks were going to be before I went on the retreat. And I think that would have helped me have a better experience. So I'm here to try to share some of the information that I think would be useful to anyone thinking about going on a Goenka style Vipassana retreat. The first reason that I left was total submission was expected of me and everyone there. And this was submission without explanation. So the retreat begins and you give them your valuables. You give them your phone, your keys, your wallet. I gave them my ring. Anything that you consider valuable, you're going to give to them. And at the time, there's a lot of reasons for this. One of the reasons is that there's no locks on any of the doors. So, that's one reason why it's nice to be able to just give everything over. The second reason is there's lots of advantages to giving up your phone, obviously. I'll cover that in another video. But just to convey that this was not in itself a reason that I left. This is just setting up the environment. I really want to convey the kind of environment that they set up for the attendees, because that is everything. Because you are stuck in this environment for the 10 days and you have access to nothing else. So the environment they set up is very important. And I found that to be an environment of submission. So you give them your valuables. That's giving up a lot of power already. The meditation hall is such that the teachers sit on a raised level and all of the attendees sit on the ground. So you are at a lower level than the teachers. And anytime you go to ask questions, the teacher has you sit right in front of their table. There's a private interview room, and the teacher is on a raised level, and even in there, so there's another table where the teacher sits on a raised level, and they direct you to sit right in front of the table, and it's very much a looking up at them, and they're looking down at you, while they direct your actions in every possible way, and they dispense wisdom. They are controlling your food, right? So I knew this going in, not problematic in and of itself, especially if you give your consent to this kind of situation. But you are literally not allowed to bring food. They ask you at the beginning, did you bring any food? And you have to say no. And I assume if you said yes, they would confiscate that food. They are very strict and very serious about the rules. There really is no bending them. So that further adds to this atmosphere of submission. You are eating only what they give you. And in many cases, this is a very generous thing because they are giving it to you for free. Donations are only accepted at the end of the course. But the power dynamic is there of you do not have access to anything that they do not give you. And these are people who are asserting themselves as more powerful than you, as knowing more than you. And your ability to say no is basically taken away. So that's number one. Your ability to say no is taken away. And if you do say no, they put you into an interview room with the teacher. And the teacher basically keeps talking at you and gives you reasons to follow the rules until you agree. And everyone around you is following the rules. No one else is saying no. And that further contributes to this pressure of you have to say yes to everything. The ability to say no is taken away from you. So they also control the way that you move. When I entered the meditation hall, they, on the fourth day especially, instructed us not to move. They called this the sitting of determination. And when I say you can't move, I'm talking complete stillness. The way you breathe is surveyed and regimented, because it is so silent that if you take a sigh, that is seen as an extremely, not extreme, it's seen as a significantly deviant behavior. Because everyone else is so silent, if you stretch your spine just like this, that movement is detected, and that movement is discouraged, actively discouraged, and actually forbidden. So you might think, if I don't have little movements like this, pain will come. And you're right. And when I brought this to the teacher said that is part of the process, learning to deal with the pain. And I think that could be true to some extent, but you are out of control of when you feel pain, and I didn't know that going in, and I wish I had. So you're only allowed one question per day, and it's not allowed to be philosophical. So you sign up for this private interview with the teacher, where you have about 5 minutes to talk with the teacher. And this is once per day. There's an hour allotted, and explicitly in the rules it says this is not for philosophical debate. This is only to bring problems that you're having with your meditation to the teachers. They can help you. And I went in for one of these interviews with the teacher to ask my question, and they were very specific. They said, what is your one question for the day? And yeah, so there's not that much opportunity to get clarification. And my point is that this was further adding to the atmosphere of submission. When you're not allowed to ask questions, that to me is further adding to this power dynamic. And again, this power dynamic is not acknowledged or explained or justified. It is assumed that you will just go along with it, that you will trust by default that they know best. And it is not explained why you need to give them this trust or anything like that. So they just sort of assert this power dynamic and control every minute thing. And you're expected to just go along with it, and you're not allowed to say no. I went with a friend, and they also separated us into different rooms. We had requested to be in the same room, and they denied that request without acknowledging it. They put us into separate rooms, which in the end could have been really nice because we had that extra privacy. There was this strict dress code, which I'll get to in a moment. So the privacy was nice because I could, shed some layers and cool down, because it was a very hot summer day most of the time, and I needed to have less layers on me to like cool down at times. And so the separate rooms was nice. But you're not allowed to talk to anyone. You're not allowed to make eye contact with anyone. And going in there, you are alone with your perception of everything. So you really don't know if others are having the same difficulties. You don't know if others are having the same questions as you. You don't know if others are having the same concerns as you. And I went with a friend for a reason. I wanted to have someone there who knows me and who loves me and I could talk things through with. And they took away that power. So it is further adding to the power dynamic because they are controlling everything. They are talking at you. You are expected to absorb, and you're not allowed to process it pretty much in any way, because you're also not allowed to journal, or you're not allowed to really even talk to yourself, because everything is so silent. People can hear talking, and they basically say that like talking is forbidden in general because it's very distracting to people and to the environment, because their goal is to keep you in a state of meditation the whole time, which I think is an admirable goal. But again, none of this is explained to you. None of it is acknowledged that it is a huge sacrifice of power and autonomy, and you are just expected to go along with it. And then finally, with this first point about total submission is, they have, I can't overemphasize how much control they have over every mode of being that you have. But the dress was another thing. So you're not allowed to wear shorts. You have to make sure your knees are covered, and pretty much your calves too. I didn't see anyone with exposed calves. You need to cover your shoulders, and in some of the rules they say you need to cover your tattoos. Thankfully they weren't as strict about that where I was, and I was allowed to wear a t-shirt, and others were wearing t-shirts. There was a guy with a face tattoo right here, so I don't know how they were gonna cover that up, I guess with tape. Anyway, so this is further power that you're giving to them, is you attend and you are giving them the power to dictate how you dress. And so this is further like integrating this power dynamic into your mode of being, the way, every little decision that you make, the way you breathe, the way you eat, the way you sleep, the way you dress. Okay, so that's the first point, is they also control when you shower. You sign up for one part of the day, and you have to shower at that time. You are not allowed to shower at any other time. And it ends up being kind of this dynamic where it is sort of like the panopticon, this concept of like you are being watched at all times, because even though there's not like cameras in the rooms or anything, and the leaders can't be watching you at all times, everyone else is observing the rules, and it's so silent, and everyone has by design hyper sensitivity and heightened awareness that any deviation from the rules is going to be observed, and you sort of feel like it's going to be judged and policed. So your comrades sort of become, it's like, I'm sure there's a name for this, where, subjugated populations end up policing each other, and that's often the case in like cults. So there was definitely this dynamic there. Moving on to my second point. So number one was total submission was expected of you. They take away your power to say no, and they're very controlling. So total submission was point one. Point two is that it was too much about Goenka as a person. So this is a much shorter point. The meditation hall they start you off hearing Goenka, and this is just the Ontario one, so other Goenka style retreats might be different. In the Ontario one, you enter the meditation hall. This is on day 0, so you haven't even really started the retreat, but you are having this initial meditation on the first night that you arrive, and that's like technically before, the course is starting on day 0, and then you have 10 days after that. So you enter the meditation hall, and you just hear from these like loudspeakers, and there's no windows in the meditation hall. It's this dark environment, and the teachers are sitting at the front of the room, and everyone is like seated on the ground. You hear Goenka start chanting in an untranslated language, and none of this is explained. It's just like the first step of the retreat. You enter the meditation hall, and there's this booming voice from on high, chanting in a language that I don't understand, and this was an English and Burmese course, and I'm pretty sure the chanting wasn't in Burmese either, so it wasn't expected that anyone would understand what was being chanted. And there's this, honestly, Goenka has a very stylized voice. He sounds like, I think it was filmed in the 70s and recorded in the 70s, and it kind of sounds like the style of most like lecturers or like important people of the 70s. So this chanting comes with this like air of great importance. It's in Goenka's voice, and you don't know what he's saying, and you're in this hyper-controlled environment, and that was pretty much every day after that too. So it's not just in that initial session. The entire course most of it is spent in the meditation hall, and the meditation hall is like the essence of the course, right? So you're getting all of your instruction in the meditation hall, you're seeing the teachers in the meditation hall. That's where like the meat of the course is happening. And you know that all of these rules are coming from Goenka, and each night you sit for an hour and a half watching a video of Goenka with his wife. It's never explained who is next to him, but it's this woman, and she never says anything, but she's just seen like sitting peacefully next to Goenka, presumably benefiting from his wisdom. Anyway, I don't mean to like throw shade at Goenka. I think he has a lot of wisdom, and I'm very grateful for his teachings, frankly. But it seemed to revere Goenka for Goenka's sake. And beyond just the wisdom that he was offering, beyond just the teachings that he was giving, the whole structure seemed to value Goenka for Goenka's sake. So part of this that added to this was, at my particular retreat, the intercom was just like turned up really loudly, and to the point where it was almost hurting my ears when the chanting was happening, when the discourse was being given. And so it really is this booming voice from on high, and I don't understand the language. Actually, at the beginning of the course and on day 4, you are instructed to chant back at Goenka in a language that is not translated for you and that you're not expected to understand. They say that a formal request must be made to the teachers, and you're not allowed to make this request in English. You have to make it in this, by saying these words that they have not translated for you. And that to me was asserting more power than was needed and asserting more dominance than was needed, and was expecting me to sort of not praise Goenka, but to revere Goenka for things beyond the wisdom that was being offered, for his voice, for, you know, like his position at the top of the hierarchy. So to me, that felt like the hierarchy was being enforced for its own sake. So another thing that added to it being too much about Goenka as a person was how repetitive the instructions were. Frankly, the teaching was very simple and it could have been conveyed in a much shorter amount of time. But they replay the same audio clips time and time again. And I understand that repetition is helpful in a lot of cases and a lot of times. But to me, this was presented in such a way that it was hearing Goenka for the sake of hearing Goenka. And it was much like, you know, someone who just loves the sound of their own voice. There were definitely a lot of aspects to it where he was speaking and nothing new was being conveyed, and to me nothing of value was being conveyed. And so it actually seemed to work against the goal of the whole retreat being silence and self-observation, and a lot of it was demanding that you observe Goenka in this revered fashion and listen to just the tone of his voice, chanting in a language you don't understand, listen to these repeated instructions. At the beginning of every meditation session, you hear him say, "Start again, start again." And again, like, the informational content of this is very straightforward, and it's being taken past the point of information and wisdom being conveyed, and it's being taken to the point of you are just benefiting from hearing Goenka's voice at all. And so that is definitely, like, the entire course is structured around hearing so much of Goenka's voice that at the end he's just like this revered person, this figure beyond just the wisdom that he has to offer us, which is vast. It is at this, like, mythical, mystical level, in my opinion. And it's certainly got in the way of me being able to sit in silence and me being able to observe the self. And yeah, it was me being expected to observe Goenka for no apparent reason. The third point is that the retreat was not explaining their methods. So one crucial piece of the retreat is that you are not actually being taught Vipassana until the evening of the fourth day. So you are expected to be hungry and in pain, literally. You are skipping dinner. You are being told to sit in a position that will cause pain, and you are not being given a technique. You're not being even given the Vipassana technique until the evening of day 4. And this is not explained to you at all. You enter the retreat and they teach you Anapana. This is, I call it the mustache meditation. It is literally observing this area. And then you narrow it down to just this area, literally where the mustache is. And that is to heighten your sensitivity, to prepare you to practice Vipassana, which is a detailed body scan. Now, I'm no Vipassana master. I have been practicing it for probably 100 hours at this point, and that's in addition to my other meditation practice, which I probably have about 500 to 700 hours of practice in. And they don't tell you that the technique that you are learning on the first 4 days is not Vipassana until the evening of the fourth, where they say, oh, actually, this meditation on the nose and the mustache area, that's not Vipassana. You have been preparing to learn Vipassana. And that's not explained to you at all. And to me, that was frustrating because this 4 days is heightening your sensitivity so that you can do a more effective body scan, which is the Vipassana technique, the self-observation, right? And the first 4 days, you are concentrating on a narrow area so that you can heighten your sensitivity. The problem is, if you already have enough sensitivity to practice the Vipassana meditation, you do not have the option of moving on to that step of the meditation. So to me, that felt like wasted time because I was sitting there doing the mustache meditation, the Anapana, and it, I was experiencing lots of sensation, which is pretty much the point you need to get to before you're ready to practice Vipassana. And if that had even been explained, I may have felt differently, but it felt like they were hiding the fact that they weren't going to teach us Vipassana until the fourth day, and that we weren't even capable of understanding that some prep needed to be done before you're ready to do the real Vipassana technique at the heightened awareness that you need to do it right. And so if that had even just been explained, I would have felt a lot more at ease, or a lot like I could depend on these people to help me meditate. But it felt like that was one more aspect where the power was taken out of my hands, and frankly my time was disrespected, and my existence, like, in this extremely uncomfortable state, all of that time spent was sort of wasted because I could have been practicing the Vipassana technique. I was experiencing the level of sensitivity that you need in order to practice the technique properly, and I was not even given the option of moving on to the step that I was ready to take, to just the body scan. And now I know that it was just a body scan and I could have just done that, but that information was not given to me at the time. So number 4 is my particular facility was infested with mosquitoes, and it really prevented me from being able to exist outside. And so I ended up spending the majority of the time in my room, during rest periods. I couldn't really go for walks. They did provide bug spray, I'll give them that. But you're not allowed to kill the mosquito when it's on you. This is part of the part of the morality practice of Shila. And that's one of the 3 branches of the Vipassana sort of practice as a whole. There's Shila, Samadhi, and Panya. And Shila means that you can't kill the mosquito on your arm when it's, biting you. And so I'm covered in bites, and the walking path that they provided was just extra infested with mosquitoes. So that really got in the way of being able to enjoy the aspect of the course that's supposed to be being at one with nature. And nature is actually incredibly instructive for developing one's meditation technique, because it shows that if you observe the minutia of nature, more detail is revealed to you, and that teaches you that the same happens within. And when you view yourself as you view the minutia within, more and more is revealed to you. And so that was one crucial aspect of the course that pretty much was inaccessible at my particular facility because, and they actually explained this on the first day, it was surrounded by ravines, and these ravines hold water, and so the mosquitoes breed in the sitting water. And so if you've been anywhere with sitting water, you know that mosquitoes thrive in that environment, and you can't kill them. And so that was just like a barrier, frankly, of being able to benefit from the course as a whole. And then the last point was just to go back to the aspect of forced pain. So the first day, you're fasting, you're in this deprived state. They only give you 6 hours to sleep, which for me personally is not enough. I need 8 hours. And yes, as you advance in your meditation practice, I think you do need less and less sleep. So 6 hours would probably be plenty if I were near a state of enlightenment, but I'm frankly not, I'm still in the path, and like most humans, I need about 8 hours of sleep. So anyway, you're in this deprived state, and then you're told on top of this to sit in a very particular, there are very few options of how you're allowed to sit. You have to sit on the ground, and they pretty much know that this is going to cause pain, and one, they don't tell you that. Two, when you bring it to their attention, they say no pain, no gain, and you are just, it's expected that you sit in pain no matter how bad it gets. And your health, your well-being is not really even mentioned or given importance. So on the first day, I was sitting, sorry, my legs are asleep. I was sitting, in standard meditation position, sitting on the ground with my legs crossed, and my knees were absolutely killing me. There was excruciating pain in my knees. I took this to the teacher. I was like, I'm experiencing excruciating pain. There's actually an empty seat. There were a few chairs in the meditation hall for people who have disabilities, for people who have broken bones, etc. And so there were, it was mostly like older folks sitting with like limited mobility and the chairs in the meditation hall. And there was an empty one because I guess someone had left. Actually, someone was like farting a lot and then they left. So that's a whole nother story. I wasn't allowed to talk to that person, so I don't know what the story there was. But anyway, they left. There was an empty chair. I go to the teacher and I'm like, I'm in excruciating pain. Can I use this empty chair that's right next to me? And she said, no, you may not use the chair. You have to sit on the ground. You have to bear the pain. And yeah, I wasn't given really reasons other than just it's part of the practice, and you just kind of have to take them at their word and deal with the pain. And again, you're in this hungry state, this severely weakened state, and then on top of that they're adding this pain factor and expecting you to take it with equanimity, take it like Buddha basically, before you are at that advanced level. And it's not in your control when you you can't really stretch. You can stretch a little bit, you can take little breaks in the meditation hall, but that's kind of only the first 3.5 days, and then after that they say do not move during meditation. This is a sitting of determination. And so to me that was just a red flag, because I was telling them that to me, the pain was not being taken seriously at all, and there was no level of pain that would be taken seriously. And after I asked that question to the teacher, they actually took the chair out of the room, presumably to like prevent others from thinking, oh, hey, maybe I can use that chair. And so, yeah, they said that the chairs were only for people with like broken bones or like really could not stay on the floor at all. And so yeah, that was just like, to me, it was hard to feel safe in that environment when I saw that like I was expected to tolerate any level of pain that their instructions were giving me and causing me. So to me, that I was really having trouble feeling like I was in a safe environment, or this could be a safe environment. And like my personal experience and my pain wasn't really respected or acknowledged. Okay, so that's all the information that I wanted to give you. Those are the 5 main reasons that I left on day 4 of the Ontario Vipassana Center meditation retreat. I really think that the devil is in the details. It matters like the specifics of the teacher that you get. It matters the specifics of the facility you get. This is not to condemn Vipassana meditation, because Vipassana meditation is amazing, it is magical, it is incredibly beneficial, it is liberating, it is everything they say. And at the same time, I think the specifics of the meditation center that you go to can get in the way of the immense wisdom that Goenka and the Vipassana tradition has to offer to humanity. So that's why I left, and I hope this helps anyone who's thinking about going. This is what you should know going in, and hopefully you can be more mentally and physically prepared to handle everything they're throwing at you. So, please subscribe to see more about my experience at the retreat. I'm gonna make another video about the reasons why I love Vipassana and the benefits that I'm experiencing, and all the like more positive aspects of my experience. I am immensely grateful to all of the effort and the care that its servers and organizers are putting into the experience for the students, because I can really see they are trying to help humanity, and they are doing a lot of work for humanity and for the good of humanity, and that shouldn't be overlooked. So I hope this helps you, and good luck meditating.